Jedi, yeah, crown me king, tell them heathens.
Shalom, and welcome to another edition here on the Genesis 49ers page, where we say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdowns.
Genesis 49ers, we back, but never moving backwards. Here to put Israel on the atlas. Y'all know the slogan. We say no to vague interpretations and give thorough breakdowns. We back. I know it's been a minute for the subscribers, but I promise you that you're going to enjoy this video thoroughly. You're going to learn from this video. You're going to learn from this presentation, over 50 slides of in-depth information regarding Esau and Edom, because we have a doctrine that has resurrected and it just keeps showing its ugly head. And that doctrine is Japheth is the white people that we see today in America and Europe. And also you still have the Arabic Esau hypothesis, I'm going to call it, coming back to life. These are all zombie doctrines. The reason why I call them zombie doctrines is because no matter how many times you shoot them in the head, you kill them, you lay them down, they come back up, they rise again, and they begin to infest the community. And a lot of people push and propagate the notion that Esau is Arabs, or the white people in America and Europe are not Edomites, they're Japhites. This is what's being taught. Then the number one question gets thrown out there. Where are you getting this from? Can this be substantiated? And today we're gonna break down the Arabs. We're gonna break down that topic, completely destroy the notion that they are the Edomites, the ancient Arabs, because a lot of you people want to argue from a modern standpoint when we're talking about ancient populations and ancient people. Esau is an ancient and Edom is an ancient polity, not a modern polity. You're trying to fit modern population density, into your own little doctrine. So we're going to hew all those doctrines down today in one video. So the topic is Esau, Edom, a people described through evidence. We're going to describe these people through evidence, not through hearsay, not through surmising, but actually stringing together strong arguments through historical evidence. That's what we do here in Genesis 49ers. We say no to vague interpretations and give thorough breakdowns. A lot of you brothers and sisters run with interpretation. You love that microwave scholarship. Instant gratification is what I call it. What most people call it, you know. You don't want to have to put too much thought into anything as a people. So you come with these microwave doctrines that don't make any sense. They're not logically coherent. And then Genesis 49ers has to clean it up. We have to come and clean up and undo the stupidity that you have forced on our people. So let's get right into it. That's enough for the introduction to this video. Let's see, can we validate the claims with historical documents? Source. Next time somebody give you a doctrine, you tell them, provide me the source, a legitimate, credible source. Let's get right into it. Esau is not the ancient Arabs. Esau being the ancient Arabs is highly unfeasible, due to the fact that Edom of old was neither called or acknowledged as the Arabs. We do, however, have on record that the Ishmaelites, or the Sumuel tribes, were given the appellative Arab. That's strike one against this doctrine. How can Esau be the ancient Arabs if we do not have documentation of them being called by the appellative Arab? That's strike one. Sumuel is Ishmael. We're going to get into that. In the Aramaic documents, excuse me, they are Sumuel. And we can prove that. So Sumuel or Ishmael is Strong's Hebrew 3458. Ishmael is comprised of Shama and El, which means God hears, and you can see the Strong's number on the screen. So if you want to look this up yourself, you can. In the Assyrian documents, they refer to these tribes as Sumuel, which is a metathesis of Ishmael. Metathesis, if you watch my videos in the past, some of my prior videos, I brought this topic up, this word up, and this term up before. Metathesis simply means the transposition of sounds and vowels in another language. So they transcribe Ishmael as Sumuel because that's how they would have to spell or pronounce that name in the Assyrian language. Just like you have George in English, is Jorge in Spanish. You have Juan in Spanish, but it's John in English. That's called a metathesis. And we know for a fact this is the biblical Ishmael because the tribes associated with Sumuel equate to the sons of Ishmael, i.e. Nabat and Kedar. Those are two sons of Ishmael. When we read the Assyrian documents, we can ascertain that. Even in the Bible, we see the correlation. In the Bible, we see the correlation of Arabia and all of Kedar's chiefs were traders under your rule. They traded with you in lambs, rams, and goats. Ezekiel 27:21. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nabahoth, and Kedar, and Abdil, and Mibsam. So the Bible is making a correlation with Arabia and all of Kedar's chiefs. Who's Kedar? Kedar is the second son of Ishmael. So we can clearly see who the Arabians were. That's the children of Ishmael. The Arabic correlation. At Tel Mashuta in Egypt, a silver bowl was found bearing an Aramaic inscription, Quanu, son of Geshem, king of Kedar. In Nehemiah 2:19, it says Geshem the Arabian. So we can see that this is an equivocation here between the Arabians and the Kedarites. They're the same. So they're calling the Arabs Kedarites, and they're calling the Kedarites, or the Kedarites, Arabians. So we can see that the Arabians and Kedarites are synonymous. The Arabs are the children of Ishmael. The ancient Arabs are referring to the children of Ishmael. Excuse me. I slip at the tongue, but not at knowledge. So you can see on the presentation that we've already provided enough evidence and data to hew this doctrine down, because the ancient Arabs are the children of Ishmael. You have no historical clarity on your doctrine. We do. That's what we do here in Genesis 49. We breathe, eat, and sleep this. Concrete evidence. That's what we provide here in Genesis 49. We give you concrete evidence. We give strong arguments for our claims. We don't give you that religious fairy tale BS. We give you the historical documentation. We give you the evidence. We give you the source. So again, here it is. The association of Duma with Kedar supported by the ethnicity of King Hazael. So king of Duma, Esarhaddon's inscription call him king of the Arabs. Ashurbanipal's inscriptions state that Hazael was a Kedarite king. So you see the correlation between the Kedarites, which are the sons of Ishmael, and the Arabs. They're the same. They're equated as the same. They're mentioned as the same. We have the historical. This is going back to the 8th century BC. They were the first ones called Arabs. The children of Ishmael. Source is Ephal, the Ancient Arabs, page 224. I'm telling y'all, man, y'all following these zombie doctrines that have no foundation, nothing to stand on. Moving on. Ishmaelites appear, let's deal with the eponyms. The Ishmaelites appear as the Sumuel in the Assyrian sources. That's what I brought out earlier. And North 1985 is the reference. From a historical and geographical point of view, the identification is very plausible. Early in the first millennium BCE, they become historically manifest as a tribal confederation opposite the Palestinian monarchies in an area stretching from Havilah to Shur near the border of Egypt. Genesis 25 and 18, i.e. from the Ishmaels of Sus to Duma, or Ishmaels of Su to Duma, Duma al-Handal, and Nephud in the Arabian desert. Since the 8th century BCE, the members of the Confederation of Sumuel equal Ishmael, headed by the Kedar tribe, are known as Arabi, Arabu, Arabia in the Assyrian sources. In contemporary biblical texts, Ribi, Arabi also start to replace the Ishmaelite. Isaiah 13:20, chapter 21 to verse 12, Ezekiel 27:21. So you can clearly see that we have a source material again. Ishmael was known as the ancient Arabs. That word Arab was another name for Ishmaelite, for the Kedarites, the children of Ishmael. And the source for that is Dictionary of Deities and Demons in the Bible by Karel van der Toorn, page number 451. So the doctrine has been put to bed, man. Ishmael are the ancient Arabs, not Esau, not Edom. Let's go to JoJo. Let's go to my boy JoJo, the famed historian Josephus, the accredited historian Josephus JoJo. See what he says about the Ishmaelite. Concerning Abimelech, and concerning Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and concerning the Arabians, which were his posterity. What does it mean by posterity? Posterity are your children, those people that come forth from your loins, the people that proceed from your body, from your seed. That's what posterity means. The Arabians come from Ishmael, according to JoJo. According to Josephus, when the lad was grown up, he married a wife by birth, an Egyptian, from whence the mother was herself derived originally. Of the wife were born to Ishmael 12 sons: Nabaoth, Kedar, Abdel, Mopsam, Edomas, Masios, Shodad, Theman, Jetor, Naphesis, and Kadmas. These inhabit all the country from Euphrates to the Red Sea and called it Nabataean. They are an Arabian nation and named their tribes from these, both because of their own virtue and because of the dignity of Abraham their father. So the Nabataeans, the people that swept and took over the lands of Esau, those are Ishmaelites, according to JoJo, the historian, Josephus. I call him JoJo, right? Y'all gonna respect JoJo, man. Y'all gonna respect him today. Now, I just want to deal with the meaning of Kedar. Kedar means dark skin. And of course, we know he's the second son of Ishmael, pursuant to Genesis 25, verse 13. It is the name for the nomadic tribes of Arabs. Let me read that again. It is the name for the nomadic tribes of Arabs. The Bedouins generally. Isaiah 21:16, Isaiah 42:11, 16:7, Jeremiah 2:10, Ezekiel 27:21 are your reference scriptures. We brought up Ezekiel 27:21 earlier. Who dwelt in the northwest of Arabia. They lived in black hair tents. to dwell in the tents of Kedar was to be cut off from the worship of the true God. According to this, the Kedarites suffered at the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, and there's your scripture reference there on the screen. And the source for this is Eastern Bible Dictionary under Kedar. They are, according to historical records, they are the original Arabs. What you gonna do, just distort history just to make up your doctrine and your fairy tale? Madness. Moving on. Conquest and expansion. Because a lot of people say, well, the Arabs lived and inhabited the lands of Esau. Okay. White people inhabit the lands of native Indians to this day. What does that mean? Does that mean they're the original people that was here since the beginning, or the first ones that found this land? No. Same thing with Europe, which is going to be the next segment of this presentation. We're going to deal with Europe. But anyway, just because they live in the localities or cities or the lands of Esau doesn't make them Esau. It doesn't work like that. I know your mind, you've been taught to think like that because a lot of you guys are following Carl Lynn. You're following Carl Lynn and Blumenbach. They tied skin color, race, and everything to lands. They're the ones who brought that to the forefront in the 18th century. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's deal with conquest and expansion. The Nabataeans first come into prominence during the Hellenistic age. Originally a nomadic tribe from Arabia, they settled in the land of Edom. They settled in the land. They moved in, they settled into the land of Edom. They took over Esau. They took over the lands of Edom. I believe in the 3rd century BC. It said they grew rich from spice trade, and by the mid-century, 2nd century BC had established a trading kingdom with its capital at Petra. At its height between 100 BC and 100 AD, the Nabataean kingdom had expanded north to Bostra and southern Syria, west to the Negev and the Sinai, and south to Hegra and the Red Sea. Although they were allies to Rome during this time, the Nabataeans' wealth and strategic location proved irresistible to the Romans, who in 106 AD incorporated the Nabataean kingdom into Trajan's newly created province of Arabia. The subsequent prosperity of Nabataea fluctuated along with the other Eastern Roman provinces. Petra transformed itself into a metropolitan city in bishopric in Byzantine times, but declined into insignificance during the Islamic period. From the 7th century onwards, due to the shifting patterns of trade and politics attendant on the move of the Islamic capital from Damascus to Baghdad, Petra remained essentially deserted for the next 1,000 years, except for the occasional pilgrim, crusader, or Arab traveler who might happen to pass through the area, or the Bedouin who made temporary dwellings in the city's caves and tombs. The city was rediscovered by European explorers in the early 19th century. By that time, any local knowledge of the history of Petra had been long forgotten and replaced by legend. And the source for that, archaeology.com, Jordan Petra is the article that you can find this under. So why do we bring that up? Because they, through conquest and expansion, is how they came into the land of Edom. They weren't originally from Edom. They came and invaded Edom. The Arabs, the Nabataeans, the son of Nabataean, by the way, according to Josephus, they came and invaded Edom. That doesn't make them Edomites. Doctrine hewn down. So here we go again. Locality and early history. Because a lot of you guys argue about locality. Oh, they were here, they were there. That makes them this. No, that's not how we do scholarship. Again, that's that microwave scholarship. We put our stuff in the crock pot and we let it cook and slowly cook so you can get all the juices and nutrients out of that thing, man. We're trying to give you the real meat here, the spiritual meat. So a Semitic, Arabian, rather than Syrian tribe whose home in early Hellenistic times was southeast of Palestine, where they had either supplanted or mingled with the Edomites. Compare Malachi 1 through 1 and 5 as a scripture reference. In Josephus' day, they were so numerous that the territory between the Red Sea and the Euphrates was called Nabataean. These are the Arabians, who are the Ishmaelites, right? They extended themselves along the east of Jordan with Petra as their capital. Their earlier history is shrouded in obscurity. Jerome, following the hint of Josephus, asserts they were identical with the Ishmaelite tribe of Nabaoth. They were identical with the Ishmaelite tribe of Nabaoth. They were identical with the Ishmaelite tribe of Nabaoth. That's the Nabataeans. That's the sons of Ishmael. It says, which is possible, though Nabaoth is spelled with the Hebrew letter Tar and the Nabataeans with the Hebrew letter Teth. They were apparently the first allies of the Assyrians in their invasions of Edom. Malachi 1:1, which is the prophecy of the destruction of the lands of Edom. And again, they supplanted and mingled with the Edomites. They're not the Edomites. They are Ishmaelites. Reading on. They were later subdued by the Sennacherib, but before long regained their independence and resisted Ashurbanipal. According to the Alexander Polyhistor, they were included in the nomadic tribes produced by David. Their history is more detailed from 312 BC when Antiochus sent his general Athenaeus with a force against them in Petra. After an initial advantage, the army of Athenaeus was almost annihilated. Demetrius, the son of Antiochus, was sent against them a few years later with little success, though he arranged a friendship with them. The first prince mentioned is Aretas I, to whom the high priest Jason fled in 169 BC. They were friendly to the early Maccabees in anti-Hellenistic struggle, to Judas in 164 BC, see 1 Maccabees 5:25, and Jonathan in 160 BC, 1 Maccabees 9, verse 35. So how are the Arabs? How is Esau the Arabs? We clearly can see that the sons of Ishmaelites were regarded as Arabs and called and acknowledged as Arabs, as Arabian nations. Doctrine's cut, man. It's over. So let's have a quick summary of the Ishmael topic, and we're going to close this segment and go into the next segment. The summary of Ishmael. Ishmael's posterity was known as the ancient Arabs. That was proven without a shadow of doubt that they were the Arabs. We got Josephus, the historian, telling you that. St. Jerome, the church historian, told you that. The Assyrian writings tell you that. The Sumuel are the children of Ishmael and the Assyrian stripped. Ishmael's children were black, i.e. Kedar, because Kedar means dark skin. The Nabataeans were regarded as Ishmaelites and conquered the land of Edom. We proved all those points. All right, so next slide. Japheth is not the ancient white nation. Here's another doctrine that just keeps popping up. Oh, Japheth, those are the white people. Based off what? Based off surmising? You guess that? You think that? Well, we're going to show you what the historical documentation says. Early inhabitants of Europe were black or Negro. Japheth children cannot be the progenitor of the white complexion because all of the evidence points towards an early Negro colony existing in the localities of Europe. So, quick rundown. Japheth is said by historians to inhabit Europe first. The historical documentation that we have in evidence points towards them being the early inhabitants to be Negro. 1 + 1 = 2. So if the early inhabitants of Negro of Europe are Negroid, and Japheth is said to be the first people to inhabit Europe, ding 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 ding, it should the light bulb should go off in your head. The first Japhites were black, according to history. Slide. Now, as you can see on the screen, we have a piece of a fresco, and it's the Bronze Age Flotilla fresco from room 5 in the West House at the Minoan town of Akrotiri, Santorini, Greece. And you can clearly see all of the people depicted in this fresco are dark-skinned, dark-complexioned people. These are the Minoans. The Minoans are the first people to settle Greece. The earliest civilization in Europe are the Minoans. They're all black. So again, if Japheth was the first people to inhabit Europe, and the earliest evidence that we have of the people of Europe depict them as dark skinned, again, a light bulb should be going off in your head right now. Ding, ding, ding. Japheth was originally dark complexion. I mean, this ain't hard. This is easy. On the screen now, you see a partly restored image from the camp stool fresco at Knossos, the Palace of Minos. I mean, just look at your screen. How are these people depicted? These people were depicted with dark brown skin. These were Japhites. All right, let's get right into the source material. We showed you frescoes, ancient artwork depicting the early people and civilization of Greece. Let's go into what the historians say. It says, from the foregoing, we may assume that lighter types were certainly not infrequent in ancient Greece, but as a whole, the population was certainly dark complexion. These are not my words. It says race and civilization is the source. Frederick Otto Hertz is the author, and page number 109 is where you can find that quotation. So by and large, the ancient population of Greece was dark complexion. If you teach that Japheth are the first ones to inhabit Europe, then the early inhabitants of Europe were dark, which would make Japheth dark. Ancient dark-skinned Minoans. The pottery found buried with them was of the good Commodities period, i.e. the Middle Minoan second. These figures suggest that the Minoans belonged to the dark-skinned, long-headed Mediterranean race. Dark-skinned, long-headed Mediterranean race. So these people are not what you would call the modern Caucasian or American white or white European. They're not. They're just not. Source, the Church Quarterly Review, Volume 61, page number 44, under the recent excavations of Crete. Early Negroids of Italy. Mr. Franklin makes an observation which is new to me, that the ancient Etruscans had the countenance of Negroes. You know what countenance means? It means the appearance. Their physical appearance was that of Negroes. Who are the Etruscans? The first inhabitants of Italy. They were described as being black. It says the same as the images of Buddha in India. And the source for that is Anacalypsis, Volume 1, Godfrey Higgins, page 216. I told y'all, Genesis 49ers, we do not play with the information. We say no to vague interpretations and give thorough breakdowns. Even when you look at the Black Pantheon, and remember what the historian Xenophani said. He said the ancient people will make gods in their likeness. So how were the ancient gods of Greece depicted? It's right here in the source. It says all the gods of Greece were black. All the gods of Greece were black. At least this was the case with Jupiter, Bacchus, Hercules, Apollo, Amnon, and the goddesses Venus, Isis, Diana, Juno, Metis, Ceres, Cybele. They're all black. And that's according to Anacalypsis, Volume 1, Godfrey Higgins is the author, page number 176. And we touched on that in my video, Japheth is Black. I showed you the imagery of Nike, the god Nike, Black Venus. We looked over that. We showed you that. We already proved that. They all had strong Negroid features and phenotype. And according to Xenophanes, the ancient people made gods and depictions of gods after their own likeness. So if their gods looked that way, then the people reflected the gods physically. earliest European civilization. I mentioned it before. Greece was home to the earliest European civilizations. So when you think about early European civilization, you have to think of Greece, and you have to think of the Minoans, and the Minoans were dark-skinned, dark-complexioned people, according to historians, according to the source material that we have. The Minoan civilization of Crete, which developed around 2000 BCE, and the Mycenaean civilization on the Greek mainland, which emerged about 400 years later. They are the earliest ones. So again, the first people in Europe were dark-skinned. And the source for that, world and its people, Greece and the Eastern Balkans, page number 1458. So let's see what population geneticists say. Not what the average Negro say, what his opinion is. What does population geneticists say on this topic? The ancient Mycenaeans and Minoans were most closely related to each other, and they both got 3/4 of their DNA from early farmers who lived in Greece and southwestern Anatolia, which is now part of Turkey. The team reports today in Nature. Both cultures additionally inherited DNA from people from the Eastern Caucasus. This is when you start getting the quote-unquote white complexion people into Europe. This is when you get it, because the original population has been proven without a shadow of a doubt to be dark-skinned. But they find an admixture of DNA coming from the Eastern Caucasus and near modern-day Iran, suggesting an early migration of people from the east after the early farmers settled there, but before the Mycenaeans split from the Minoans. So the population geneticists are bringing out that you had another people come and mingle with the original inhabitants of Greece and original inhabitants of Europe. And that's when you start getting that migration of quote-unquote white people, which we're going to get into it in the third segment of this presentation. Those are Edomites. And the source for that is sciencemag.org. Article is the Greeks really do have a near mythical origins, ancient DNA reveals. Genealogy and geography. Genealogy, and again, quick reminder, this, we don't do what a lot of you guys do here on Genesis 49ers. A lot of you guys will go through 100,000 scriptures and preach and surmise and make up your own BS. What we do is we just go through the historical archive and we paint a narrative based on evidence. So back into the presentation, genealogy and geography. They were the grandchildren of Noah, and under whom names were imposed on the nations by those that first seized upon them. Japheth, the son of Noah, had 7 sons. They inhabited so that beginning at the mountains of Taurus and Amnanus, they proceeded along Asia as far as the rivers Tanais and along Europe to Cadiz. Cadiz is in Spain. So they were the first ones in Europe. That's been established. And settling themselves on the lands they light upon, which none had inhabited before. They called the nations by their own names. Source is Josephus, Book 1, Chapter 6. So we got Jojo, the historian. He right back here again, the accredited one, telling you that they're the first ones that came to Europe. And we already proved the first people in Europe were black. So you can't say Japheth, the ancient Japhites were white. Because according to history, according to archaeology, these people were black. The ancient Medes were black, and if you know anything about biblical history, the Medes come from Madai, the son of Japheth. So how are they the ancient white people, or they had white complexion, if the Medes, the sons of Japheth, were regarded as being black? It says the Medes, according to Greek mythology, were descended from Medea the Colchian witch from the story of Jason and Argonauts. According to legend, Medea later married Agesilaus of Athens, after whom the Aegean Sea is named. The Medes were descended from their son Medus of Colchis. According to the description by Herodotus, a Greek historian of the 5th century BC, known as the father of history, the Colchians who dwelt in the land located along the western slope of the Caucasus Mountains near the Black Sea and what is now the state of Georgia were black. He not only pointed to the Colchians' black skin and woolly hair as evidence, but also their language, methods of weaving, and practice of circumcision. So, the father of history himself, Herodotus, or Herodotus, some people call him, stated that the Medes were all black. They were black skinned and had woolly hair. And these are the same Medes that descend from Madai according to the biblical history and biblical narrative. And the source is Black Terror, White Soldiers by David Livingstone, page number 57. Now, let's go into DNA again. Now, if you guys are familiar, Cheddar Man, I think it broke out in the history in news about 2 years ago. It was a big thing. Cheddar Man DNA shows early Briton had dark skin. And that's the actual article name on BBC.com. So to come to face with what this guy could have looked like, and that striking combination of the hair and the face and the eye color and that dark skin, something a few years ago we couldn't have imagined, and yet that's what the scientific data shows. They found the Stone Age Briton to have dark hair with a small probability that it was curlier than average, blue eyes, and skin that was probably dark brown or black in tone. This combination might appear striking to us today. Listen to this. Listen to this. This combination might appear striking to us today, but it was a common appearance in Western Europe during this period. They dating this man 10,000 BP, and BP means before present. So according to their timeline, the earliest inhabitants of Europe were black skinned, because they said at this time, 10,000 years ago, according to them, the inhabitants of Europe were all black. This is from BBC.com. This is where it's from. Major news outlet. And they're saying that was a common appearance 10,000 years ago, according to their timeline, according to their chronology. That was a common appearance in Western Europe to have dark skin. Black people inhabited Europe, and they were the sons of Japhite. They were the sons of Japheth. They were the Japhites. According to DNA. According to what the population geneticists say. Come on, man. 10,000 BP before present, again, as I stated before. Cheddar Man's genome reveals he was closely related to other Mesolithic individuals. So, wait a minute. We all know Meso means between, I believe lithic means stone. Individuals, so-called Western hunter-gatherers who have been analyzed from Spain, Luxembourg, and Hungary. These are all European locales. These are all locations in Europe. He's related to these people. This is why they said it was a common appearance. Dutch artist Alphonse and Audrey Kennis, specialists in the paleontological model making, took the genetic findings and combined them with physical measurements from scans of the skull. The results were strikingly lifelike, reconstruction of a face from our distant past. Pale skin probably arrived in Britain with a migration of people from the Middle East around 6,000 years ago. So they're saying pale skin didn't hit Europe, or at least Britain, until quote-unquote 6,000 years ago, according to their timeline. This population had pale skin and brown eyes, and the Zord population like the ones Cheddar Man's belonged to. So whoa, we can't just skip over that. So the original inhabitants, according to these scientists, according to these geneticists, were dark skinned, and a pale skin race and absorbed this dark skin race that existed prior to them. Isn't that what we tell you Esau did? Isn't that exactly what we tell you Esau did? Esau came into Europe and took over those lands, Japheth's lands, pushed a lot of them out, mingled. Y'all know the story. So they're saying the same exact thing. So source BBC.com, article Cheddar Man, DNA shows early Briton to have dark skin. Again, so that population from the Middle East is Esau. We're postulating that, and we can stand on that because we have the documentation. You guys don't have the documentation. You can't provide historical clarity. Well, we can. Edom brought the pale skin to the lands of Japheth. That's exactly what this article is articulating. So let's get to the next slide. A picture worth a million words. Remember, they brought out the Dutch artists Alphonse and Andre Kennis, and they reconstructed this man's face and how he would look with his skull. And look at the picture to the right on your screen. He's obviously dark skinned. Obviously dark skinned. This is a representative of Japheth. This is a profile of the children of Japheth that you're looking at. Same article, BBC.com. They said it was a strikingly lifelike reconstruction of a face from our distant past. A lot of you white supremacists, you got angry at this information. You were upset. You were mad. You was livid about this. You were perturbed because everything you've been taught, you basically inherited lies, like Jeremiah said, man. So that summarized Japheth. That summarized everything we talked about in that segment dealing with Europe and dealing with Japheth, the first inhabitants of Europe. The original inhabitants of Europe, Japheth, were originally a black or Negro race. The Minoans were the first civilization of Europe, and they were a dark complexion race. The Medes, the sons of Japheth, were described by Herodotus as having dark skin and woolly hair. According to genetic history, the original inhabitants inherited DNA from the East Caucasus, aka Esau and Edom. So, again, we made claims that Edom went into Japheth's territory. Let's deal with that. The introduction of Edom into Japheth's territory. Meantime, Zepho had won a decisive victory over the African troops. You know who Zepho is? He's a son of Esau, a direct descendant of the actual patriarch Esau. It says that he had won decisive victories over the African troops that had made an incursion into the land of Edom, and the people chose him as king. On his return, the people built a great palace for Zepho, and they renewed his kingship, and he continued until his death to reign as king of Edom and of Italy. And that source is the Legend of the Jews, book 2, chapter 1, I believe that's verse 442. Louis Ginsburg. So, the Legend of the Jews, real quick, is an article that compiles a multitude of rabbinical literature, a multitude of historical documentation from different Jewish sources and outlets. So we have Zepho, and Libya. If we pass through the interior Africa in southerly direction beyond Gatuli, after having traversed the intervening deserts, we shall find, first of all, the Libyan Egyptians, and then the country where the Lucao Ethiopians dwell. Lukai, I believe, is Roman, or Latin, and that means white Ethiopians. So we've seen Zepho coming to North Africa, or what will be known as Libya. And we also see in history by Pliny the Elder, the source of natural history, section 5 and 8, a mention of white Ethiopians, pale people living in Africa. I take that as a connection with Zepho, the Edomites, going into Africa and then selling into Italy, just like the history reports. It says the Tamahu on the right are comparable to the white Ethiopians mentioned by Pliny, which could be a result of Zepho and co-selling Africa. The Tamahu and Temahu posterity of Esau, Edom. These are white complexion people. So these people right here to the right, in the tomb of Pharaoh Seti the first, I believe these are the children of Esau that went into North Africa, and then from there they went into Italy and different European locales. So let's deal with the historicity of Edom and Crete and Italy. So Idomeneus, right, is a real historical person, right? Idomeneus was king of Crete, was son of Deucalion and grandson of Minos II, whose father was Acastus, son of Minos I. This prince, according to Homer, accompanied by Marion, his cousin German, conducted the siege of Troy, the troops of Crete, with a fleet of 24 ships, and distinguished himself there by many glorious exploits. The same poet describes his combat with Ophthalionus, who, in the hopes of marrying Cassandra, the daughter of Priam, had come to the assistance of Troy from Cambyses, a town in Cappadocia. Him Idomeneus slew. So this Idomeneus, which I believe Idomeneus is a callback to the word Edom. He's in the Greek history. And he was known as a king, and he conquered, just like Sepho. Sounds like a correlation. So it says, after the taking of Troy, Idomeneus and Marion, laden with the spoils of Trojans and returned to Crete, were overtaken by a storm, which, being likely to prove fatal to their fleet, induced Idomeneus to vow that if he might return in safety to his kingdom, he would sacrifice to Neptune first thing he should meet. The tempest ceasing, he reached the shore, whither his son, hearing of his approach, had hastened to receive him. It is easy to imagine the shock of his father. So this sounds just like the same thing the brother did in Judges. When he saw his daughter, he made a vow to sacrifice the first thing as well, and he ended up sacrificing his daughter. The same thing, Idomeneus. So it's sound like he's from the same area, and also his name is Idomeneus. It's not hard to tie that to Edom. But superstition prevailed, and he resolved on the discharge of his vow. Some of the ancients maintained that his horse sacrifice was performed. Others, notwithstanding, affirmed that the people interposed in behalf of the prince and not only carried him beyond the reach of his father, but also conspired against him. Idomeneus, on finding that his life was in danger, sailed to Italy, where he built, soon after his arrival, the city Patilia near Salentum, or according to some, Salentum itself. So we read earlier when we was dealing with the segment of Japheth that the pale skin came later in time. The original inhabitants of Europe were all dark, but the pale skin came later. That pale skin came from Edom, or Idomeneus. That's what we're reading the history when they came and invaded Italy, and came and settled Italy, and came and penetrated Europe. So that source is Bell's New Pantheon, Historical Dictionary, 1790, page number 405 by J. Bell. So according to the monuments, same book, Idomeneus, however, afterwards returned, as well as Marion, died in his own country, where a magnificent tomb was erected to them, at which they received divine honors. The Cretians sacrificing to them as heroes, and in their wars invoking them as their protectors. This tomb was still visible in the time of Diodorus and Gnosis, with this inscription: "Here lies Marion by the side of Idomeneus." So this is still Bell's Pantheon, pages 4 through 5 in the Historical Dictionary. So Idomeneus was a real historical character, and I'm tying him in correlation with Zepho, an Edomite that came through North Africa and went and invaded or settled in Italy and settled in Europe. Now, to even back up this claim even more, you have the Phaistos disc. The Phaistos disc is a historical a piece of archaeology that we can ascertain the name of Esau, or Idomeneus. So this is from the Dutch Archaeological and Historical Society. It says, at any rate, it is specified here to me under the sway of the king of Knossos, Idomeneus, in his function as a great attendant over the Masara on behalf of his superior Nestor, somewhat vaguely addressed as Iri Utu Ayawa, great man in Achaia. In this particular text, but king of Greek Pylos, according to Homeros, noting this connection that according to his own Cretan hieroglyphic seal, Nestor is only a prince of Masara. This coincides with the fact that the region of Crete in its entirely falls under the authority of a great king. In this text of the Phaistos disc, the great king in question is plausible to be identified as Tarkun Aratus, a contemporary of Amenhotep III. So this all happened around the time Amenhotep existed on the earth, which is around 1390 to 1352 BC. And what is more, considered an equal great king by the letter of the El Amana letters, That's deducible from the fact of this pharaoh wants to fortify his alliance with Tarquin by marrying one of his daughters, and such the only representative of this rank in the region at this time. And the source is documents in Minoan, Luwian, Semitic, and Pelagesian by Fred C. Woodhuizen. I don't speak German, so. But page number 69. Historical proof of Edomites, aka Esau and Edom. So we have a timestamp. He's around the time of Amenhotep III, and we can see him going into Greece. We can see him going to Crete and going into Europe. So we can see that there's some validity in this claim. Let's continue on. So the rabbinical literature agrees with what we just read, that Esau or Edomites went into Europe and inhabited Europe. It says, it is apparent from all this that all the days that the blessed one prospered us, he trod down the peoples of Edom beneath us, and we were undermined our tower of strength. Edom girded, and when we undermine our power of strength, Edom girded its loins in might. For our sages have already made it clear to us that our present exile is the exile of Edom. For through Rome, so they're calling Rome Edom, the cutter has been our undoing and is considered part of Greece. Onkelos translating Numbers 24:24, and Tism from Kittim. And troops will be summoned from Rome, and Kittim is one of the sons of Yavon, Greece. Still his kings were from Edom. So they're saying the kings of Kittim or Rome or Italy came from Edom, came from Esau. As was much of his population. It says much of his population, majority of the population of Italy and early Europe were, not early Europe, but during this time of invasion, were Edom. Onkelos translating Lamentations 4:22, your iniquity is remembered, daughter of Edom. As your sin is visited upon you, Rome, you wicked one, built up in Italy, and filled with the people from the children of Edom. So the early rabbinical literature is telling you what? The Italians, these Romans, they were Edomites. They came from Edom. And the source is Darashos Haran 2 and 6. Cities of Edom in Europe. More rabbinical literature telling you verbatim that Europe is considered the cities of Edom. So the synagogues and houses of study, all Israel and Spain, the west Shinar, i.e. Babylonia, and the land of the deer, i.e. Israel, light lamps in the synagogues and unfold mats on the ground to sit on them. And in the cities of Edom, i.e. Christian Europe, they sit in it on chairs. So you can see, according to the source, the Mishneh Torah praying and priestly blessings, chapter 11, verse 5, which is the Sepharia Community Translation, they identify these cities of Edom as being in Europe. The origin of King Latinus. If you don't know who Latinus is, he is said to bring the Latin language to Italy. So it says, therefore Don Isaac Abravanel properly argued on this verse, her nobles and no kingdoms is there, because the head of Rome has not the title of king, and at court are many nobles, the cardinals. Latinus, with whom they say the Latin language originated, was one of the dukes of Esau, called in Genesis Duke Lotan. And that's from the prophets and hagiography by Manasseh ben Israel, page number 218. So we see more of the correlation of Esau coming into Italy, being King Latinus, being the progenitor of the Latin language, and basically permeating and penetrating the European locales and taking over. Here's another source. Esau peopled Italy. These are the words of that prince of historians, Josephus, from which is seen that the descendants of Esau, who was Edom, reigned in Kittim, which is Italy. From the fame of this king, many Edomites subsequently came to people Italy. By them was Rome founded. They're saying Rome was founded by Edomites. According to Josephus, Jojo, the historian, the accredited historian, the prophets and hagiography by Manasseh ben Israel, page number 218 again. So it's clear. It's clear. It's not even a debate. It's not an argument. Speaking of debates, none of y'all want to debate any topic because you know this is what will happen to you. Slide after slide after slide of veracity. Proving and verifying our point. Now, let's deal with the red people argument because there's been an argument that red means black. Red, every time you see red, just translate it as black. Let's just get a historical perspective on that. Red people from an Arabic perspective. In contrast to the Persians, the Arabs called themselves black or in general dark colored, which we already covered in the first segment. The Ishmaelites were the Arabs, and the Arabs did consider themselves black because they called them Kedarites. Kedar means black. Or in general dark colored, the Persians are usually described as red, light skin, Amar, or feminine Hamra. The Banu el-Arar were called in Kufa al-Ahamira. Consequently, this color designation applies also to Mawali, a man of Tayyam Allah, reddish as if he were a Mawla. Red is here used as a lighter color in general. The same color attribute is used also of other non-Arab races. In Spain, the Arabs call the indigenous Christians Banu al-Hamra or al-Hamra. It need not be specifically emphasized that Mudar al-Hamra does not belong here, but is derived from a particular legendary reason. A description of non-Arab nations as light-skinned is also al-Dawlami al-Ashke. The Franks were also sometimes called Shakur. So we know the Franks were white people, and this is what they called them. They referred to these people as red. Esau, Edom means red, that red nation. In this group belongs also Banu al-Asfar, a description of the Greeks which is found in a poem described to the pre-Islamic Abid Zaid. The literature on this attribute is collected by Steinschneider. One could be at the excursus in Ibn Khaldun, number 799 on this name, which is also found al-Bukhari. Asfar is in fact used as contrast to Aswad. Genealogists who were not satisfied with the correct meaning of the word as a color description saw in Asfar the name of the grandchild of Esau. Esau, al-Asfar, father of Romil, the ancestor of Rome. So even in the Arabic sources, they are saying that the Romans were Edomites. They descend from Edomites, just like we found in the rabbinic literature. If they're descendants of Edomites, that means the Edomites are migrated from the east, permeated and penetrated the European locales, like I've been saying this whole presentation. Like the geneticists say, the pale skin came from another source, and they came from the east. They did not originally live in Europe, and these people came from the east. We read it. We read the BBC.com article when ancient Britain was dark. They said the pale skin came later. But what was there first? The dark skin. Okay, so how did the pale skin get there? Through the Edomites, the ancestors of Rome. Because we know the Roman Empire took over the known world at that time. And the source for that is Muslim Studies by Goldheiser at page number 243 to 244. White people of Palestine. Because a lot of people will say, well, how can Esau be the pale skin race or white race if he married black people? Do you even know the story? Do you know the history? First of all, that is completely possible genetically because there's something called imperfect penetrance and incomplete dominance and narrow replication. So you can have that happen genetically. But let's just read this real quick. Let's deal with the Horites. Nobody ever talks about the Horites. Horites, Horam, Korai, denoted the inhabitants of Mount Seir before its occupation by the Edomites. Deuteronomy 2:12. Seir is accordingly called Horite in Genesis 36:20, verse 30, where a list of his descendants is given, who afterward mixed with the invading Edomites. They mixed with the invading Edomites. Esau himself married the daughter of the Horite chieftain Anna. Hor or Horite has sometimes been explained to mean cave dweller. It more probably, however, denotes the white race. The Horites were Semites and consequently are distinguished in Deuteronomy 2:12 from the tall race of Rephaim. The source for this is International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, Horite Horum, by A.H. Sayce. So if this denotes the ancient white race, which I believe is called that because of the invasion of Edomites, but they're saying the opposite. Either way you spin it, that would make the Edomites a quote unquote white people or white race, a white complexion, however you want to, phrase it. So more proof and more evidence. So let's deal with more historical clarity on this. The apostate versus Rabbi Nathan, 13th century France. I made you contemptible and base before all people. He's quoting Malachi 2:9. Said a certain apostate to Rabbi Nathan, you are uglier than any people on earth, and our people are very handsome. He replied, those big plums that grow along the sign, what blossom do they have? He said to him, white. And what color is the apple blossom? He said, red. He answered, that is what we are from, a pure white seed, and our faces are dark. So he said, he basically saying the Jews are black. He said, wow, you are Edomites. You are Edomites, a red race conceived from a miscreant woman, so that you are yellow and red. Why so? Because we are all exiled, as it is said in the Songs of Psalms 1:6, look not upon me because I am black. So the Jewish community in the 13th century used this scripture to say, hey, this is how we look. We are black. And what did they say about the Edomites? They're a red race, yellow and red. Meaning what? They're yellow and ruddy because they have blonde hair and their complexion is a reflection of their blood that shows forth through their skin. And the source of that is the image of the black and Jewish culture, Abraham Melamed, page number 34. So according to this source, the Edomites were known to be red, and that red is talking about a pale-skinned person. You can see the blood through their skin. We're going to prove it. Next source. Here's the Sephardic perspective again. Same argument. Here it is. It says, Sefer Yosef HaMekanai, which boasts that we Jews are from a clean and white seed, therefore our faces are black, but you from a red seed administration, therefore your visages are pale and red. So that's what that meant. It's 13th century Sephardic perspective again, that Rabbi Nathan, same conversation, same people he called Edomites. He said, your visages, meaning your faces, are pale and red. And this is the description of the Edomites. Again, these are the people that invaded Europe. These are the people that came into Europe and absorbed or mingled with or got rid of the original populations of Europe, which would be Japheth, which the original Japhites were black, because we brought the history of the Minoans, the Etruscans. They all resembled Negroes. They all had dark brown skin. And then Cheddar Man just blows it out the water. Because everybody knows Cheddar Man was dark skinned, and he said that was common in ancient Europe. That appearance was common. So the source for this is Black Jews in Africa and America by Tudor Parfit, page 16. So let's get some examples. If anybody else still want to play with, what does red mean? Let's give examples of red people. Naturally of a sanguine complexion. Sanguine is red. It says, his visage now glows with a deeper red. A description of Roman Emperor Nero found in the works of Lucian. Source, a history of the Romans under the Empire, volume 6, page number 195 by Charles Merivale. Sanguine denotes a reddish or blood red complexion. The Hebrew word dam means blood. So these are the red people. Edom means red. The Romans were regarded as red people. Here's another example, and real quick sidebar. This is how you explicate a topic. This is how you do it. Back into it. So it says, known as William Rufus because of his ruddy complexion. He was the third son of William the Conqueror. William I inherited the English throne from him. And the source is bbc.co.uk article, historical figures, William II the King. And you have the Bayeux the Bayeux Tapestry, with a depiction of William Rufus. He's depicted as a pale red person. That's what the Bible means when it says Edomite, or a red person. Physiognomy. I always mess that word up, but let's deal with the physical. So Sulla, Cornelius, the name of the patrician family. This family was originally called Rufinus, and Rufus in Latin means red. And the first member of it who obtained the name Sulla was P. Cornelius Sulla, or Suya, mentioned below. Some writers suppose that it is a word of the same signification of Rufus or Rufinus, and refers simply to the red color of the hair or complexion. And the source for this is a classical dictionary of Greek and Roman biography by William Smith, page number 901. So, I mean, we could really end the video here, but we have more. White Germans identified as Edom. So we already proved Esau migrating to Europe. We already proved that they were quote unquote white red people with that mixture of the Horites. And now we're gonna prove with the white. Let's just look at it. Let's just read it, man. It's just overkill at this point. So white Germans identified as Edom. Germania of Edom, i.e. Germany, which is near the land of Edom, i.e. Rome, as if the Germans would go forth, they would destroy the entire world. Megillah 6b and 1. So we can see in the rabbinical literature, they identified Germany, the people of Germany, as Edom. Where you people from? Where you get the word Ashkenazi from? Germany? You Ashkenazi Jews? You people are from Esau, man. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother bag. We'll get to that, when we get to it. So let's go ahead and get to the next slide. The Esauians are Edomites, according to the historical documents. According to the Samaritan Chronicles, in the 12th year of the pontificate of the high priest Nathaniel, Zayat, the king of Edom, i.e. Zeno, the emperor of Rome, Esauian was called king of Edom. Source: History of the Byzantine Jews, Eli Cohen, page number 25. So the Esauians in the 4th century were known as Edomites, according to the Samaritan Chronicles. These Esauians were pale-skinned red people, or what you would call white Americans or white Europeans today. That's how they looked. And mentioning the Esauians, they were the people that brought in whitewashing. The beginning of whitewashing through the Esauians, which is in their name, Esau, Esauians. But below you say the folio from the 9th century iconophile, the Psalter likening the iconoclast shown painting over an image of Christ with the soldiers who crucified him. And you can see them painting Christ white. Now they say, whitewashing was when they just covered the whole wall with white. No, it wasn't. That's not what they're depicting in this 9th century iconophile. They're depicting a man painting over his face. You can still tell that it's an image of a man, but his skin and his pigmentation is depicted as white. That's whitewashing. And that came in by the Esauians. So we've been dealing with nothing but historical facts throughout this whole presentation. Let's deal with these red lentils. Red lentils are emblematic of Esau and Edom. To the right on your screen, you can see for yourself with your own eyes how red lentils look. You can see they're like a darkish red, This is supposed to be emblematic for Esau and Edom. I don't see black people or Negroes looking like that. But I know what race, what complexion can show forth that. So let's read Genesis 25, 28 to 34. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is why he was also called Edom. So again, the red stew, the red lentils, is emblematic of Esau Edom. Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright. Look, I am about to die." Esau said, "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. So he ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. So that's the lentils on the right. And that's supposed to be emblematic, a symbol for Edom. That's how he got his name Edom. And when I look at this, I don't think of a black complexion. Look. A ruddy complexion, red lentils. I think of quote-unquote Caucasians and pale skin when I look at these lentils. I don't think of Negroid or black or dark complexion. I don't. There's something to think about. So, before we end this, I have to define what the word ruddy means, because a lot of people have been saying ruddy means black, ruddy means no, it doesn't. It does not mean black or brown or anything like that. The word ruddy, late Old English, rudig, rudicune, probably from rudu, meaning redness, related to reed, red, from the PIE, Proto-Indo-European root, rude, red, ruddy, as a British slang euphemism for bloody, first recorded in 1914. Related ruddiness, Edom online. So again, this is related to the blood red color. It's not related to black, dark. It's none of that. So y'all can just like stretch that out of your doctrine. Ruddy Europeans, a thick and opaque, though color is cuticle, obscuring the blood of the cutis, assists greatly in giving that deadness of hue and phlegmatic aspect which distinguishes some Europeans from others who, with a thinner and more translucent epidermis, are marked by a florid, ruddy complexion. This is how Esau looked. This is how the Edomites looked. They had pale skin. That's what it means by translucent epidermis. That's why they were called ruddy, because you can see the blood through their skin. It says they are marked by a florid, ruddy complexion. As the cuticle becomes darker in color, it obscures more completely the color of the blood and the subjacent tissue, and hence it's only in nations of light complexion that sudden blushing or paleness is at once perceptible. That's not perceptible amongst darker nations. So they wouldn't be called ruddy or red. Who would be called ruddy or red? Those that have pale complexion. Who are these pale complexion people that we read about in the ancient times? Esau, Edomites, period. And the source is an English Encyclopedia, Volume 8 by Charles Knight, page number 666. That's going to get some excitement. That's going to garner some excitement in the comment section, I guarantee you. All right, so now next thing I'm going to bring up is, oh, well, the word Ammoni, oh, David was called ruddy. You're saying he was pale skinned? No, I'm not. If you do the research, do the history, they say David was brown. So let's get into it. Michaelis admitted in his notes that Ammoni might denote a yellowish brown color. Luther rendered brownish. So Martin Luther, he rendered the word brownish. The Orthodox Lutheran theologian C.F. Kell, 1875, has the correct translation. He was brownish and withal beautiful eyes and goodly to look upon. So he said David was brownish. I'm going to explain to you why and the whole controversy behind Ammoni. It's a simple mechanic with any language. And I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to bring it, with Genesis 49 is going to bring it to a simple level for you guys can understand. Source, the Open Court, Volume 33, was David and Arian. Paul Haupt, page number 29. And here's some verses below. 1 Samuel 16 and 12. So Jesse sent for him. He was dark and handsome, with beautiful eyes, and the Lord said, "This is the one, anoint him." So the NLT doesn't say ruddy. It says he was dark. The Orthodox Lutheran theologian said he was brownish. And then Songs of Solomon 5 and 10 says, "My lover is dark and dazzling." It doesn't say ruddy and white like in the King James Version. In the NLT, the New Living Translation, So how did they come to this conclusion? They must have did their research. That's how they came to their conclusion. Like what we do here at Genesis 49ers. We don't run with surmising. We do research. Admoni is a homograph. What is a homograph? A homograph is each of two or more words spelled the same, but not necessarily pronounced the same and having different meanings and origins. For example, Admoni has the same spelling, but guess what? It's two different meanings. Admoni can mean brown, Admoni can mean red. Why? Because the root word could be dam, which means blood, and that's why you have Edom, the red nation, right? Which is Strong's H1818, or it could be ground, which is Strong H127. When we're denoting ground, we're talking about an earth-like tone or a brown tone. This is why the Lutheran theologians said that David was brownish, and they still call Esau red, because Admoni is a homograph, a word with the same spelling but two different meanings. That's the conclusion we come to here on Genesis 49ers. So let's wrap it up. Let's get the Edomite summary. The Edomite summary is simple. The red lentils are emblematic of the skin complexion of Esau. The Romans and Germans were identified as Edomites. The red complexion was attributed to Romans and white Europeans in general, and Esau and Edom immigrated into Greece and Italy and other parts of Europe. We proved all those points without a shadow of doubt here on Genesis 49ers on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share the video through the various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, or what have you, and like and thumbs up this video. Comment down below what you thought about it. Comment down below just a summary of which or anything you might want to add to this video. Or if you disagree, comment down below. We invite disagreement here. Just be cordial and be respectful, and we can talk. We can talk. I bet you none of you guys want to debate this topic. Nobody never wants to debate. You guys love the keyboard warrior spirit. You love going back and forth via the internet. I don't do that. But if y'all want to debate, so be it. Nobody wants to debate this. Why? Because we going over the source material. We're not preaching to you. We're bringing you the education and edification. Edification means to build. We have you we give you the foundation to build upon. So with that, I conclude the lesson. Genesis 49ers signing off.